It's recorded. Hey, so we have learned 3 methods of solving, slash finding zero, slash finding x intercepts, slash finding the roots of our quadratics. Here is a quick recap of all 3 of them. Method 1, we have 2 terms, but b is 0. So in order to solve, b has to be 0. Method 2, we set our function equal to 0 and we solve. And then don't forget to add that positive and negative. So that's method 1, is set it equal to 0 and solve it like a regular equation. Method 2, factoring. So we factor out and we have our 2 sets of parentheses. I have a few notes here. In 5.6, this is how we factored. In 5.7, this is how we factored. In 5.9, this is how we factored. That should not say, is that 5.9 or is that 5.8? It's 5.9. Okay, sorry. I thought I maybe had the wrong section. So if you need to look back at your factoring notes, those are the sections you're going to use. There's 3 different types of factoring that we've seen. And then method 3 is what we learned on Monday. It is the quadratic formula. So quadratic formula, I've got the whole formula for you there. My steps, what we did, and what's going to help you be the most successful is to find that discriminant first, and then put everything into the formula, and then split into your plus and minus when you're ready. So those are the 3 methods we've learned. How notes is going to work today is we have 3 problems only, but we're going to do each of the problems in every different way that we can, so you can see the different ways and determine which way is going to be the easiest for you for that type of problem. So the first example we have is f of x equals 25x squared minus 169. We are able to do this one all 3 ways. So we are going to do the same problem 3 times. So the first one is solving. So I'm going to set it equal to 0. So 25x squared minus 169 equals 0. Okay, from there, we need to get x squared by itself. We're going to add 169 to both sides. So we have 25x squared equals 169. Then we divide both sides by 25. And we have x squared equals 169 over 25. Is 169 divisible by 25? No. So we're going to leave it as a fraction. And then we are going to take the square root of both parts. So the square root of 169 is 13 in your calculator if you need to do that. Second square root, 169 is 13. And then the square root of 25, second square root of 25, is 5. So we get an answer of 13 over 5. But wait, I wanted 2 answers. What are my 2 answers? Positive and negative. Okay, I kind of ran out of space there. I'm sorry. Okay, so down here at the bottom, if on these lines where we have zeros, we're going to get the same answer 3 times. We can go ahead and put it down for the first one, make sure we get it on the other ones. So we've got 13 over 5 and negative 13 over 5. All right, any questions on that guy? All right, I forgot one step. I forgot I had these blanks here. In this problem, what's my a value? 25. Okay. What's my b value? 0. So there is no middle term. So our b value on this one is not technically, it is 0. And then our c value is negative 169. So I forgot to fill in those blanks. I just got so excited about solving. Hey, a lot of people think solving is the easiest method on this one, because since you only have to do like the positive and negative, you can just do it one time really, and then do the positive and negative at the very end. Any questions about the solving on that one? Hey, factoring is an option on this. This is perfect squares, so this is difference of perfect squares, so that's 5.7. If we wanted to factor this, 25x squared is 5x times 5x. So our two factors would be 5x plus and 5x minus. And then the square root of 169, we've already done this, is 13. So that would be plus 13 and minus 13. So we take the square root of 25x squared, we take the square root of 13, or of 169. And we write the plus version and the minus version. Any questions about either of those? Okay, so then with factoring, you use the zero product property. So now we would take that 5x plus 13, set it equal to 0. We would take this 5x minus 13, set it equal to 0. And we can go ahead and solve both of these. So for the plus 13 one, we would subtract 13. We would get 5x equals negative 13. And then we would divide both sides by 5. And we would get negative 13 over 5, which is one of the answers I already got. Okay, for this one, we would add 13 to both sides. So we get 5x equals positive 13. We would divide both sides by 5. We would get x is 13 over 5, which is the other answer. Okay, any questions about factoring on that one? Okay, we are going to do quadratic formula on this one. We have never done quadratic formula on one with a b value of 0, just because I didn't put any on yesterday, or Monday, because I just didn't. So it is going to look a little bit different, but the steps are all still the same. So we are always with quadratic formula going to start by doing the b squared minus 4ac. So b squared, I'm going to write that down here so I know what I'm doing. B squared minus 4ac. Now I can like plug stuff in. So I'm just going to do my discriminant over on the left here. So b squared is going to be 0 squared. Minus 4 times my a value is 25 times my c value is negative 169. It's the same number of numbers as yesterday. They're just big numbers. So they are big numbers. That's one of the qualms with quadratic formula. It works the same way every time, but you're going to get some big numbers. So 0 squared is going to be 0. Minus 4 times 25 times negative 169. I get 16,900, which seems crazy. But we are going to take the square root of it in a second. So I have 16,900 as my discriminant. Any questions about that? Okay. Now we're going to plug everything into the rest of our quadratic formula. So we have x equals negative b. What's my b value? 0. So I'm going to go ahead and write down negative 0. I'll get rid of it in the next step. But I want us to see that we plug something in there because I don't want us to just think it doesn't exist. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. I already did that. It's my 16,900. 16900. All over 2 times my a value. So 2 times 25. Okay. Any questions about plugging things in? Okay, at this step, I'm going to get rid of the negative 0 because I know that 0 plus or minus the square root, 0 plus the square root and 0 minus the square root are going to be just plus the square root and minus the square root. So I'm just going to do plus or minus whatever the square root, second square root of 16,900 is, which is 130. So I've got plus or minus 130 over 2 times 25 is 50. So I just got rid of the 0 because I know 0 plus 130 is just going to be 130, and I know 0 minus 130 is just going to be negative 130. All right, so now I need to split this up and do the positive and negative version. So I'm going to have 130 over 50, and I'm going to have negative 130 over 50. And I need to reduce both of these. What can I divide 130 and 50 both by? They ended at 0. What can I divide them by? 10. So I can divide by 10 on top and 10 on bottom. I get that 13 over 5. I divide by 10 on top, 10 on bottom. I get negative 13 over 5. Okay, so we just did the same problem 3 ways. I never expect for you to do the same problem 3 different times unless you really want to. You're going to need some scratch paper. Any questions? Right now, you need to look at this and make sure that you understand at least one of these methods for this problem. So look and make sure that you can make one of those work. If you want to take a second to pick which one you think is going to be the best, you can. I would recommend solving as the easiest one here. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you ask me what I think, I'm going to tell you solving. All right, flip this over then. We've got 2 more on the back. All right, next one we've got is x squared plus 3x minus 54. Let's remember to do our ABC this time. So my A value is 1, my B value is 3, my C value is negative 54. Okay, I went ahead and left the method 1 box here, but it's really small because we're not actually going to use it. We cannot solve this. So if you want to put an X through this box, you can. If you want to write down that the reason why you can't solve it is because B does not equal 0, you can. So we can't do that option because B equals 3. So solving, you can only do if B equals 0. So I don't want you to, I wanted to put that on there so you would know not to even try. Okay, we can factor this one. So this one has an A value of 1. So factoring is just find 2 numbers that multiply to C and add to B. So we can use the X, we can list out our factors. It's completely up to you. I'm going to use the X. So I'm trying to multiply to negative 54. I'm trying to add to 3. Okay, take a second. Don't shout it out yet so that everyone can take a second to do this. Take a second to see if you can find the numbers that multiply to 54 and add to 3. Any luck? What are they? 6 and 9. Okay. Woo. We need a multiply to be a negative, so we want 1 to be negative. Which one do we want to be negative? What? The small one, the 6. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So we found our two numbers. So for this method of factoring, when there's no number in front of x, we get to just write our factored form from here. So it is going to be x minus 6 times x plus 9. And you are fully factored at that point. Okay, we're going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. X minus 6 equals 0. We would add 6 to both sides. We get x equals positive 6. X plus 9 equals 0. We could subtract 9 from both sides, and we get x equals negative 9. So positive 6, negative 9. All right, any questions on that one for factoring? Okay, and a reminder, you don't have to show that work if you don't need to. You got to show your factoring and you got to find your zeros, but I know a lot of us were able to get from here to here and here to here in our head. All right, we are going to do that one again. We are going to use quadratic formula. So we're going to do the same thing that we do at the beginning of every quadratic formula, which is that b squared minus 4ac. So I'm going to do that over here to the side, b squared minus 4ac. My b value is 3, so I've got 3 squared minus 4 times my a value is 1 times my c value is negative 54. Okay, throw that in my calculator. You throw that in your calculator. 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 54. What'd you get? 225? Okay, if you didn't get 225 and you want us to help you figure out why, either call Miss Hector over now or while we're walking around helping with assignments, let one of us know. Right, so we can now plug in the rest of that into our equation. We've got x equals negative b, so that's going to be negative 3, plus or minus the square root of 225 all over 2a, so that's going to be 2 times 1. The square root of 225 is 15. So I have negative 3 plus or minus 15 over, and then 2 times 1 is just 2. And then we can split and solve them each from there. So negative 3 plus 15 over 2. Negative 3 minus 15 over 2. I wrote negative 13 instead of negative 3. I was like, this is not going to give me the right answer. Negative 3, not negative 13. Okay. Sorry about that. Negative 3 plus 15 is 12. 12 divided by 2 gives me 6. Negative 13 minus 15 is negative 18 over 2. And negative 18 divided by 2 gives me negative 9. Okay. Any questions about either of those methods? Okay. Which one was faster? Factoring. For most people, I think factoring is going to be faster, especially because you could skip over all of that if you were able to. But doing all of this at the end to split to get your two answers, there's just more opportunities to make mistakes. If you want to do quadratic formula, you're welcome to. It works. It just may not be the fastest or easiest option. Okay. Last problem we've got. 15x squared minus x minus 2. My a value is 15. What's my b value? Negative 1. And what's my c value? Negative 2. So don't lose those negatives. Okay, once again on this one, we cannot solve. I left the word solving there so we could have the conversation that we cannot solve. But because b does not equal 0, we cannot solve. So don't even try. For factoring on this one, it's the longer method of factoring. So we need to find two numbers that multiply together to be AC. So AC is 15 times negative 2, which is negative 30. So we are looking for numbers that multiply to negative 30, and they need to add to negative 1. So multiply to AC, add to B. What numbers multiply to 30 and are 1 apart? 5 and 6. Awesome. 5 and 6. And then since we're trying to add to a negative, we want to make the bigger one be negative. So we'll have negative 6 there. Okay. From here, our next step would be to split. So we're going to keep our 15x squared. But then instead of minus 1x, we're going to have plus 5x minus 6x minus 2. Okay. Factoring by grouping. Out of 15x squared and 5x, we can pull out a 5 and an x. 15x squared divided by the 5x is 3x. And then 5x divided by the 5x is positive 1. Negative 6x minus 2, what can I divide both of those by? Negative 2, because then I'll leave behind positives. So negative 6x divided by negative 2, positive 3x. Negative 2 divided by negative 2, positive 1. Okay, then this is the step that everybody was forgetting. You have one more step you need to write before you can split and solve. So we need to put our GCFs that match together, so 3x plus 1. And then our other piece of our answer is 5x minus 2. So that is the factoring. From here, we need to solve and find our zeros. Some of us were able to do that in our head. Some of us were showing work. I'm going to do it with work on here, but if you can get from here to your answers in your head, and get your negatives and your fractions correct, that's fine. So I'm going to set 3x plus 1 equal to 0. I've got to write tiny. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, so I get 3x equals negative 1. And I divide both sides by 3. So one of my answers is going to be negative 1/3, and I will leave that as a fraction. Okay, this guy, 5x minus 2, set him equal to 0. Add 2 to both sides. 5x equals positive 2. Divide both sides by 5. And we will get 2/5 as our other 0. Okay. Any questions on that guy? Okay, we're going to do this problem one more way and then kind of look at the differences and you can pick which one you think is better for you. And then we'll just have the rest of class to work on our assignments. We'll have like 50 minutes to work on our assignment, basically. Okay, last problem, we're going to find the discriminant first. So we'll do b squared minus 4ac. My b value is negative 1, so I'm doing negative 1 squared minus 4 times my a value is 15 times my c value is negative 2. I think this ends up being my most reasonable discriminant of the day, of the notes. Negative 1 squared minus 4 times 15 times negative 2. Oh, negative 2. I get 121. So I have 121 as my discriminant. Okay, then I plug that and everything else into my formula. So it's x equals negative, is part of the formula, b, and my b value is negative 1. So I now have negative 1. So you can either, if you can remember to flip it to positive in your head by yourself, do that. If you can't, I would write down both negatives so you know that they are both happening. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which is 121, all over 2a, which is 2 times 15. Okay. Now I'm going to flip my negative 1 to be positive 1. I'm going to take the square root of 121, which is 11. And then I'm also going to multiply 2 and 15, which is 30. Okay. 1 plus 11 over 30 is going to give me one of my answers, and then 1 minus 11 over 30 is going to give me my other. Did I do something wrong? No, I didn't. I was just like thinking of how they're going to reduce, and I'm like, this isn't going to match up. I think it's good. 1 plus 11 is 12. So then I have 12 over 30. What can I divide 12 and 30 both by? It was negative b and then the negative in the formula, so it became positive. That's what I was tripping myself up on too. I was second guessing myself. So we can divide 12 and 30 both by 6. So 12 divided by 6 is 2. 30 divided by 6 is 5. And so that matches up with this answer. I was trying to match up the answers with the wrong ones. I was like, what are these going to reduce to? This one, 1 minus 11, is negative 10. And so the negative 10 out of 30, we can divide those both by 10, and it ends up being negative 1/3. Okay. All right, on this one, which is easier out of this one? Some of you still, a lot of you are still saying factoring? Okay. And I made quadratic formula seem harder because I messed it up. Okay. I think factoring and quadratic formula are pretty equal difficulty. Like if you look at how much I wrote about the same amount. It took me about the same amount of time. I think it just depends on this one, what you're better at. If you never really fully understood 5.9, then I would just do quadratic formula, because most of us were doing okay with quadratic formula on Monday. I am going to go ahead and stop this notes video.